This is Chris, the Idaho painter here on Paint Live TV. Today we're going to be doing an accent wall in this 1950s restoration of a duplex. We're going to give you some tips and tricks doing an accent wall. You can see we've got blue already on this wall because we shot a video doing cut-ins and why we backroll our cut-ins. You can check that video out after this video. But if you want to get some tips and tricks doing accent walls, stay tuned for this video. All right, so we're getting ready to do this accent wall here. We got Luke is doing some spackling, getting rid of some imperfections. I mean, this is a 1950s, remodel. A lot of imperfections on the trim, walls, ceilings, but we're not just gonna paint right over them. We're gonna scrape out the ones that would be real glaring, when we do this wall. So we got things that Luke is filling, holes he's filling, some indentations. I just use my Linbide to go around. He's spackling with Crawford's vinyl spackle. It's a spackle I like to use, but I'm looking for anything on the wall I can scrape off before he does his spackling. And there's kind of like, because this house has been painted so many times and people just keep repainting over, chunks and boogers and all kinds of crazy stuff, and bad spackle jobs that, kind of just makes the wall not look so great. There's some peaks and valleys. I can scrape these things flat. It's just gonna make it look a lot better. You can see along the bottom, we've done quite a bit of scraping because you can see all the stuff we scraped on the paper. So it's getting pretty good. We're gonna go back. Luke's gonna sand over all the stuff he's spackled. You can see it, it's white. And then we're gonna begin rolling the walls. Now, when it comes to doing an accent wall like this, typically what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our masking, our prep work done, and we're going to roll our walls. This is a dark color, an accent color, and it typically takes 2 coats to do an accent color like this. So we're gonna roll 1 coat, do our cut-ins, and then do our second coat. Now, the ceiling cut-ins have been done because we were doing another video, prior to this. I would typically do the roll the wall first, 1 coat, get close to the ceiling, do the cut-ins, and then the person's gonna follow, Luke will follow right behind me doing the second coat while the cut-ins are still wet. That way you keep a wet edge and your paint is gelling into each other and you're not gonna get any haloing. A color like this, you'll get haloing if you do all your cut-ins, let it dry, and then go back and roll your second coat right over the top of that. You're always trying to keep a wet edge when you're doing cut-ins. Or when you're doing an accent wall. So when you're doing your cut-ins and rolling, if you're doing it by yourself, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult. Doing an accent wall is perfect with 2 people. If I'm doing it by myself, I'm gonna do about half the wall, and up high, it's a lot hotter than it is down low. So if I tried to do the whole thing at once, I'd come back and it already started to dry, and then I wouldn't have that wet edge and you might get haloing. So I'll do like half of it, jump off the ladder, roll the wall, and come back and do the second half. But we'll just pretend in this video like we didn't do the ceiling cut-ins, and we'll get this, the first coat of this wall done. And your first coat, Luke will be putting on the first coat. He's not gonna be putting it on like it's the final coat because you want it to dry really fast, so you don't want it to be super heavy. You want to just get a nice thin coat on the wall, allow that to dry. Here's a little tip trick: crank up the heat in the house. You cranking up that heat with forced air heating, it's going to dry this thing off like really fast. So if it's really cool, damp, moist, it's going to take a lot longer for your first coats to dry. And typically a wall like this, we want to get in and out of the house in 1 day. So wherever it's dry here, I'm just going to go along and just sand the spackle flat. The Crawford spackle sands really easy. Okay, we're gonna get ready to start doing our rolling. One of the first things we gotta do is load up our roller. It gets this thing nice, loaded up before we start rolling. This thing is nice and loaded up now. If you don't load it up really good, it's gonna, what we call dry nap it in the very beginning. So get this thing, super loaded up. And then first coat is gonna go on extremely thin. And it looks something like this. I'm gonna get this first coat on. to get close to my edges. I'm going to be masking these edges, but first coat's going to be just nice and light. We got a little bit of sanding to do still right there, so that's going to be the first coat. We got it loaded up, but the first coat is going to stay away from your edges. Stay away. You want to try to get down as close as you can to the edges without touching the edges. So I can come down here, I can roll up, get close like that. I can get within a quarter an inch this direction, right here, just like that. So first coat, we'll just pretend like I haven't done my ceiling cut-ins, and that's how close I can get, just like that. So we got two guys, Luke and I, doing this wall. I'm gonna work on getting some sanding done here. Luke's gonna start doing the first coat. Oh, we gotta get our line masked here. We had a line previously done, but this was gonna be a white wall, and we decided to do an accent wall, so our line is definitely gotta be perfect when it comes to a wall like this. We got Luke is dusting off top of the baseboard. Just gonna be masking with frog tape. This is blue frog tape here. Blue frog tape with a dark color like this is going to give you a perfect line. We've got a baseboard heater. We're going up and over right here. And we got to just, it's got a gap in between it. We don't want to, not sure if we should. We don't want to get paint on the baseboard. I don't think we want to caulk behind it either. So I'm going to mask a line here. We want perfectly straight line going up this wall. So this line's going to be masked. Then we're going to caulk this line when we get ready to do it, because this wall is a little bit bumpy, uneven. In order to get a perfectly straight line, we're going to caulk our tape here. When it comes to the sides, we always hand cut in our ceilings. When it comes to edges like this, it always looks nicer if you mask a line. I'm gonna run my finger along that frog tape there so I get a good seal. So I'm gonna get a nice straight line. Just putting on a thin coat. Not super worried about my layout as much with this color. There's a lot of black, and this color covers extremely well. You can see when I'm applying my paint, I start in the middle of the wall, unload from top to bottom, but then my strokes are always top to bottom strokes, laying the paint out. When you're doing an accent wall that's dark like this, one thing you don't want to do is have strokes like this and leave in strokes right in the middle of your wall. Strokes should be from top to bottom. gonna get close to my edge without touching my edge. Just like that. Got one coat on. Gonna let that dry for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then we're gonna put the second coat on. All right, so we got to our first coat on our wall all done, and now we're gonna get ready to start doing the second coat. We're gonna show you what the second coat looks like, and this is kind of maybe not the important part, but just another important step of the process. We've got it all masked off with frog tape on my two edges over here. We've got white walls, we got white trim, so I'm going to be using white caulking. I do like using accelerator caulking from Tower Sealants because you can actually paint over accelerator instantly. You can spray over it right away, or you can paint over it in 30 minutes, and you can even paint flat paints over accelerator and it won't crack. This is kind of an eggshell finish and would have a high likelihood of cracking over the caulking, you know, if you didn't use a product like this. Like accelerator is designed, you know, for flat paints going over it. So I'm gonna caulk my edge, and then I'm gonna caulk about halfway down the bottom because I don't want my caulking to dry before I actually get my paint on it. I'm gonna get my paint on it, and then we're gonna roll the wall, and then we'll pull our masking before the caulking dries and before the paint dries. But I want these two edges to be laser sharp. They aren't on smooth surfaces. Frog tape doesn't need to be caulked if you're on a really super smooth surface, but these are, you know, imperfect surfaces. They are bumpy, have some hills and valleys, peaks and valleys that the tape may not you know, work 100% on. So using a caulking over those edges is a good added insurance. So I'm gonna caulk, do my cut ends, and then Luke is gonna roll right behind me. It's great when you're doing an accent wall like this to have two people. If not, you know, one person can do it. You just don't want, you know, your overlaps to dry at all. You wanna be keeping a wet edge. So here we go. So I'm just gonna be putting on, I mean, the only purpose of this caulking is to actually just seal the edge of the tape. So I'm just putting on a very, very light bead, and then I'm wiping it all off. I'm only leaving enough behind to seal that tape. I like having a sponge with me. The sponge, you know, gives me the ability to smooth out that edge. Real bumpy edge here, so it is really important to actually caulk this edge. Now when I'm brushing over my tape, I don't want to put a lot of pressure, just light pressure. Once again, I'm going to be brushing and back rolling because I want my stippling to match. I want to eliminate the brush strokes the best I can. Same goes down here. I'm gonna back roll my cut in. Luke will be able to start working behind me here pretty soon. Part of the success of doing an accent wall like this is having a really good paint. You know, if you have colors like this and you have a really cheap paint, you're gonna see lap marks, haloing, stuff like that a lot easier. This is a Benjamin Moore product, and they make, when it comes to dark colors like this, they have really good products for dark paints. It's good. I already did these cut-ins, which I typically would be doing them just now, but the only reason I did them beforehand was we were doing a video on back rolling your cut-ins. So it's already cut in, so I'm just going back over it, just hitting any light spots. I'm gonna re-back roll it, straighten up anything that's crooked. Now Luke is almost ready to start. So I'm gonna get as close as I can to the ceiling without touching the ceiling. Now Luke can follow up right behind me. I'm just gonna continue down here, get myself another, 3 to 4 feet. Now I know accelerators and caulking that I'm using right now that's made to be, you can spray over it, right away, and you can brush over it within 30 minutes. But when it comes to doing this technique, you always have to brush over your caulking right away. Otherwise, it will bridge from the tape to the wall and peel off. So I'm gonna try to keep it nice and heavy up here, not get too far ahead of Luke so he has a nice wet edge to roll into. So when you're doing your final coat on the wall, you wanna put a lot of paint on so you're really loading up your nap each and every time you are rolling. So you don't want to go too far without loading it up. I want a nice, good, heavy coat on there. Luke's keeping a wet edge as he goes. The heat's on a little bit too. We want the heat up to, for our first coat, because we want that first coat to dry really fast. Definitely can feel like the heat's a little bit too hot right now. So I'm gonna turn that heat down because the paint's drying a little too fast. Let's see, rolling that wall, Luke is unloading his roller from the middle of the wall, and he's going up and down from top to bottom, unloading it, but he starts off in the middle. It's important to start off in the middle so you distribute your paint evenly across the wall. So in a dark color like this, it's important as you're working down your wall to lay out. You can lay out from bottom to top or top to bottom, but be consistent throughout the entire wall. So Luke is laying it out from top to bottom. How we got this side, I'm gonna go back over here. Our paint's drying fairly quick. We don't want the paint nor the caulking to dry before we peel this off. Otherwise, we're gonna get, once again, what we call bridging. So I'm gonna start to peel this off, and you can see right here. So we got a nice laser cut line. And when I'm peeling this tape away, I'm actually peeling, I don't want to peel up like this. I want to peel down in a way just like this, and that's going to help keep your straight line. It's going to tear it, keep it from bridging. I'm kind of just going to catch up with Luke right here. This is our second coat. What I like to do is I'll get so far, and then I'm just going to take this, set this down, that, and then I'll continue on with what I was doing. Luke's keeping a good pace. It's about both guys or gals keeping a nice steady pace. Once again, I can't stress it enough, just keeping a wet edge That's gonna keep you from getting lap marks, keep you from getting haloing. This is a wall you want it. There's gonna be a TV mounted on this wall, so it's gonna be kind of a focal point of the entire room. So we want this to look right. It looks getting pretty close to this edge, so I'm going to do my opposite edge here. Again, one thing is don't put too much caulking. It's just a really light bead of caulking. If there's any type of color other than white, I'd be using clear caulking and not white, but the white caulking has a little bit more body, fills larger gaps than clear caulking. Clear caulking shrinks a lot more. There was a big gap here down by this little air vent that I wanted to fill. And the white caulking has a lot more calcium carbonate in it, and so it doesn't shrink nearly as much. So Luke got just a little bit ahead of me on the cut-ins. I wasn't paying attention. My fault. So so he's gonna have to go back and re-wet his nap and relay that out. So we don't like, if I do this, if I go cut in afterwards like this, the dark color like this, and I did back roll it like that, you would possibly see that halo right there, which we don't want that to show up. So Luke will start once again on that wall, just re-red his nap each time like he was starting over. He's totally fine. And for me, if I'm not putting enough paint on, if I'm really what we call dry napping it or doing these cut-ins, not putting enough on, it's just gonna dry way too fast and not give you the opportunity to cut it in and keep a wet edge, or your partner who's ever coming rolling behind you. If I'm doing this alone, I'm gonna be just doing short sections at a time, getting up and down the ladder and caulking, cutting in. If I tried to cut this whole entire thing in and then go back and roll it, there's no way I'm gonna be able to keep a wet edge, and more than likely I'm gonna get a halo somewhere around this wall. So I can take and begin pulling some more tape here. You can see that nice crisp line. Filled that gap on that air vent right there nicely. If you're working a large area, large room, who's ever rolling, and it's really good for that person rolling to keep their pan next to them at all times. Just keep sliding the pan. That way you don't have to reach, walk for the pan. Also, a lot of people make comments, when we're rolling with 9-inch rollers, that's too small of a roller. If you're only doing a wall like this, if we're using an 18-inch roller, yeah, you could roll the wall twice as fast, but it's gonna take you twice as much time to load up the roller. It's gonna take twice as much paint to load up the roller, and it's going to take twice as much time to clean that roller if you're going to clean it. They're a lot more difficult to clean. On one wall like this, it's a lot easier, a lot simpler just to use a 9-inch roller to do this wall, and you can manipulate that roller a lot easier, on just a short wall like this. Now, if we're rolling an entire house, we're gonna roll using an 18-inch roller or even an inner feed roller, which is a power roller. Some people ask, why aren't you rolling out of a 5-gallon bucket? I really just like rolling out of a pan a lot better. I feel like I can load up my roller, out of a pan a lot easier. And to me, I feel, I was just in a bathroom, just rolling out of a 5-gallon bucket right here on this job site in the bathroom, and paint was drying around the edge of the 5-gallon bucket, and as I was rolling it, it was knocking the dried paint off the sides into the paint and causing little chunks and boogers to be on the wall. If you get something, looks like a little spot right there, we could scrape that out later. I'm not sure if that's actually in the paint. Let me see if it's, yeah, there we go. Hit it from top to bottom right there. There's a little speck of dried paint right there. Ooh, cool. All right, so Luke's got it done to the end. I can pull my masking. We'll see how straight our line is here. Got a nice laser straight line using frog tape and tower accelerator caulking. Just like that. Let that wall dry out. Give you a look at the final product. So I know there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna ask, what color is the wall? So the color of the wall is, we're using Regal Select. It's a flat finish, so all the walls in the house are flat. It's a Brewster Gray, HC 162, and that's a Benjamin Moore color. And we're doing flat paint on the walls because there's a lot of imperfections in this 1950s remodel, and flat paints hide imperfections. They also, on accent walls, show true color way better. It looks absolutely amazing doing flat. We've got white on both sides. That's white with no tint. There's no color in it at all. They're flat. Semi-gloss on the trim, and it's pure white also. Looks absolutely amazing. I know somebody's gonna wanna know that color, because down the road, 3 years down the road, there's always somebody that asks, and I don't remember what color it is. So that's the color. So there you have it. Our accent wall is all done and complete. Looks absolutely amazing. Hopefully you've got something out of this video, learned something about doing accent walls, hopefully gave you some tips or tricks. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you get notified every time we come out with a new video. It's free, simple, easy to do. It's never costed a dime, and it never will. Down in the comment section below, we would love to hear what you have to say about this accent wall. If you got any questions or comments, leave it down in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider giving us a thumbs up, subscribing, giving us a thumbs up. Keeps us making the videos. Just I don't even know what I'm saying. It just encourages us to keep making the videos. There you have it. An accent wall just for you. Out.